Okay, so there are all sorts of awards, very long list of awards. I'll skip over them. They're fantastic, amazing. And speaking of numbers of publications in 2015, well, the year's not over, so this is not a sum total, but Dr. Liu has published 12 publications this year, including 2 in Science, probably some more in the rest of December. And Dr. Liu will speak on sustainability in a tele-coupled world.
Thank you so much. And Bill, and Karen provide an excellent foundation for my talk. They all talk about connectivities and urbanizations and social environment systems and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is to build on what they talk about and to give you some a little bit more concrete examples about how sustainability in this new kind of world that we are facing. Okay, so I first will provide a little bit background information, then introduce a new tele-coupling framework, and then show you 2 examples of application of the framework, and then finally discuss some of the future research on sustainability in the context of tele-coupling. And traditional sustainability research, I think, mainly focus on the specific areas, so-called place-based research, which is very important, has produced a lot of important insights, but has not adequately considered the interaction between different places, right? And but in reality, there are numerous distant interactions, social, economic interactions, and as well as ecological interactions. This is a diagram showing the flows of virtual water related to the trade of agricultural and industrial products. Right? So a lot of us know the trade of products, but the virtual water is the water used to produce the products that we don't see in the product, but they actually it has been used in producing those products like food. You know, you produce, account for about 70 or 80% of the water use in many countries. And to transport the product, shipping is the main way to do that. You can see this is a global shipping network. Right? And not just the extensive of connectivity, but also the magnitude in terms of speed of increase in the connectivity. Here is an example demonstrated the international tourism. Right? People visit the different countries. In the past 60 years, you can see this is a remarkable exponential increase in the number of international tourists.
It's super exponential.
Yeah, super, right? And then, besides the human interaction, there are a lot of ecological interactions too across the world. Here is an example for animal migration. Thousands of species are migratory species. They can migrate thousands miles away, right? And every year, seasonal migration. Here just shows 13 bird species can migrate, from one pole of the world to another. And you can see, okay, animals can migrate. Actually, plants can also migrate through seeds and through the help from airplanes. Here, this is a seed spatial map and around the world. Okay? So this kind of a distant interaction has been studied extensively, but mainly in different disciplines. Ecologists study animal migration, and the humans study, human migration, and social scientists study human migration, and so on and so forth. But we do need an integrated framework that can help us to study the distant interactions in a more holistic way. And okay, too fast. So far, most of the studies on the distant interactions consider only some part of the components. For example, some people focus on the environment aspect, some people focus on socio-economic aspect. But we need to understand environmental and socio-economic perspective simultaneously. And the second aspect is that most study focus on the sending and receiving places, but ignore other places may be affected by the, the trading patterns, for example. And also, most studies do not consider the feedbacks among different places. And so we need a kind of framework that can overcome this kind of limitations. Oh, too fast. So what we have done, we in collaboration with many collaborators, is to develop a new integrated framework. So the tele-coupling means social, economic, and environmental interactions over distance. Okay, so we emphasize this N here, and here is one system, coupled human natural system, or as Bill mentioned earlier, social environmental systems, and it could be a city, as Karen mentioned, or country, or a region, right? And but the essential components are two major ones. One is the human components, and you can have different organization levels, different sectors, different stakeholders. But also you have a natural component. You have at a different organization level as well, from individual and genetic material to community and so on and so forth. And you have different species and so on and so forth. So within each system, they have interactions or coupling, and they also have feedbacks between human and natural systems. So what this tele-coupling framework emphasizes is the interaction between the systems. And so these systems, one could have impact on system two. And it could be, this could be a city, this could be a rural area, this could be a country in Europe, or this could be a country in South America. Right? So, and then they will have feedback on the first systems. So there are 5 major components of the tele-coupling framework. One is sending system. Okay, so sending system means the place that sending something to another place through flows like information and material or people or goods and so on and so forth. So in each system could be a coupled human natural system. It could be a city, could be a countryside, a rural area. Right? So in each system, there are 3 major components. The causes, there are the reasons behind the flows. And the agents are the entity which facilitate the flows. The effects are the consequences of the flows. Okay? So within each system, we have those 3 components. And then here we consider the flow from the sending system to the receiving system, but the receiving systems also have feedbacks on the sending system. Okay? Besides these 2 sending systems that people usually consider, there is another type of system that we call the spillover system. Spillover systems is a system that is affected by the interaction between the sending and receiving systems. Okay? So also through the flows, okay, between the sending and spillover and between the receiving and spillover systems. So tele-coupling is a kind of umbrella concept, just like ecosystem service, many of you are familiar with, which are benefits of natural system to humans. You have multiple types of ecosystem services, like pollination, clean water, clean air. So tele-coupling could have multiple types of processes as well. So those processes, we're all familiar with. Migration, for example, animal migration is very familiar to ecologists, but the ecologists mainly focus on the ecological side. So from tele-coupling perspective, we expand that concept by including the socio-economic aspect. So when we do animal migration research, if we take a perspective of tele-coupling, then we will do both ecological studies and socio-economic studies at the same time. The same on the other side, when people look at the human migration, and they usually focus on the socio-economic aspect, but they ignore the environmental side. So, but from the tele-coupling perspective, we need to look at both at the same time, right, in a more holistic way. So there are many other processes like tourism and the trade of goods and products, and seed dispersal. We saw a picture there earlier. species invasion and disease spread and air circulation and waste transfer and water transfer, knowledge transfer, technology transfer, and foreign direct investment and eco payment for ecosystem services over distance. So all this could be part of the tele-coupling processes. So given the time limitation, I'm not going to talk about too much about this. But if some of you are interested in more about this framework, so this is a paper that the 23 social scientists and natural scientists and other people put together in 2013. So next, I'm going to show you two example applications of the framework. Right? And the first one, Karen mentioned Pandas. So I'm going to talk about Pandas, the multiple tele-coupling between a panda reserve and the rest of the world. Right? So here is the nature reserve that my collaborators and I have been working on for the last 20 years. And in the southwest part of China is a flagship nature reserve for pandas, and was established in 1975, one of the largest nature reserves for pandas, and it has about 10% of the wild pandas. And also, besides pandas, there are also people in it, and more than 4,500 people in it. So this really constitute a good example of the coupled human natural systems. So in China and many other countries, nature reserves have, most of the nature reserves have local people living inside. Unlike in the US, there are a lot of nature reserves do not have people in it. So this is different. Okay? So I'm going to show you some examples of the tele-coupling processes between Onan and the world. One example is panda loans. And inside the reserve, there is a breeding center to produce pandas. Right? So very successful breeding program. Right? In 1 year, they had 16 baby pandas, all survived. Okay? And so when you have more pandas within the reserve, then some of the pandas were sent out to the zoos inside China and in other countries, like in US too. Okay? And so over the years, the number of pandas living outside of the reserve has increased substantially, 4 times as many in 2010 compared to 1998. So here is the map where those pandas. Right? So the sailing system, of course, is the nature reserve. Here are the dots, within China, indicate the location, the receiving systems, and the size of the dots means the different number of pandas, right? And then also in some other countries, like Washington Zoo, probably some of you have visited, and San Diego Zoo, or the pandas all come from the own nature reserve. So also there's spillover systems because the transporting panda from one place to another will emit CO2. Right? And then there are also some other type of spillover systems. Here is I want to show you the difference between the traditional view of panda loans. And see here, a couple of years ago, there were 2 pandas from Onan went to Edinburgh. Okay? So took the airplane ride and by themselves, just 2 pandas. Unless, with people, if you have international flight, you have 300, 400, 500 people. They only have 2 there. Right? So just a sending and receiving system. Okay? But if you take a tele-coupling perspective, it's much more complicated. Actually, it started in Memphis, Tennessee, because Edinburgh did not have bamboo. So they need to have bamboo there to feed the pandas on the way from Onan to Edinburgh. So they also FedEx is based in Memphis. They transfer the bamboo here and then made a stop in Alaska, and then they go to Chengdu Airport. Okay, then you have this bamboo with the FedEx, and then from Chengdu, then you go to Edinburgh. That's the one that we saw earlier. But that's not the end of the story yet. The end of the story is that once they drop, the airplane drop off the pandas and bamboo, they fly back to Memphis. So there's a spillover system here to here that we usually don't consider those. We only consider, from this point to that point. But how about this? These are the system affected by this interaction. Okay, that's what we call spillover system. Actually, the emission of CO2 from here to here is about 3 times as more as from here to here. So if we don't consider this, we miss the big picture. So the agents consider the framework that we talked about earlier are the people and organizations that make Panda learn possible. Okay, there are many organizations and people that I'm not going to list say every of them. Then the causes, the reasons behind the panda loans. Of course, the cultural reasons, and people love pandas, and most people love pandas, I guess. And then the technology reasons, because the breeding technology has improved dramatically, so you produce a lot of baby pandas, so that you have pandas for loan. Okay? And then also economic reasons, political reasons, and also the social economic effects, the cost, and the network, right? And also environment effect to, on the positive side, increase the awareness of panda conservation, and then also the negative side is the CO2 emission. Right? So also the feedback, the money that they are from the loan, like $1 million per pair per year, and have been used for conservation for pandas. Then you produce more pandas, then you have more pandas for loans. Right? So the second, there are many other examples of telecoupling. Because of time limit, I'm not going to talk about too much, but I just mentioned this here. Okay, tourists, right? A lot of people from around the world come to see, and the agricultural products from Wuhan to the cities and the other places, and to produce agriculture products, then the farmers had to buy industrial products, and then the information about Wuhan had been disseminated worldwide through news media and books and so on and so forth, and the conservation money go to Wuhan from the government and the international organizations and to protect the panda habitat. So there are multiple impacts, multiple telecouplings on panda habitat sustainability. Here is a diagram to show the outcome of those kind of interactions and between telecoupling processes and the local processes. So here you have habitat declining, and then in 2001 become a turning point, habitat began to recover. So now I'm going to talk about the second example to apply the framework to global food security and land use and environment sustainability. So we all know that food in the past were mainly made by the local producers, but now increasingly made through the international trade. And also increasingly land use is shaped by the powerful new forces, such as food demand from different distant places. But the impact of food trade on land use and the environment are not well studied. So 24 people and recently established a new telecoupling consortium to address those kind of issues from 4 countries, Brazil, China, and UK, and US, and also some stakeholders like the UN food organizations, food and agriculture organizations, right? And then for each country, we choose a region, and then just take a multiple scale approach, and also at the local level, we do in-depth studies and to better understand the conditions there. Okay? And then we will have also some spillover countries in Africa, because the interactions among those countries will have impact on other countries. And this is the task list. And all this research already, but I want to highlight this stakeholder engagement to co-design, co-produce, and co-implement the project with stakeholders. And then I want to quickly show you an example of the soybean export from Brazil to China as part of the case in our research. And since 1996, and the soybean export from Brazil to China has increased dramatically, both in quantity and in value. And so we applied the framework again to this research. And then we want to evaluate the impact of this soybean trade on one of the main soybean production region in China, in the Heilongjiang province, is the northeast part of China, the soybean hometown, as it was called. And here is a map showing the changes in crop cover. The soybean in 2005 compared to 2010 was much more, but the rise and increased over time, and cornfield has been increased a lot from the reduction in the soybean, right? Because the price of soybean from Brazil is much lower, so the farmers in China could not compete with that. And then this one I want you pay special attention, because a lot of times we think about importing country benefit environmentally from importing food and other products from other countries. But what we found here, actually, this case is suffering environmentally, because soybean use much less fertilizer and then rice and corn. Actually, corn production uses about 60 times more fertilizer than soybean, because the soybean can fix nitrogen, but the other crops could not. Okay, the same with pesticides, and about 30 times more pesticides is used in cornfield production. So there is a tremendous environmental consequences for this kind of tele-coupling processes. So now I'm going to just quickly highlight some of the future research on sustainability in the context of tele-coupling. So one of the things that Bill mentioned is this bioenergy and issues and EU mandate. So we need to really evaluate the impact of different systems, sending system, receiving system, spillover system, and also at the global level, the net impact. Okay, if every system has positive impact, that's great. But if every system has negative, then we have negative. But sometimes, a lot of times I think is sometimes you have positive on one system, have negative on other system. Then we don't know at the global level what we got. Right? So we need more quantification on this. Also, we need to understand the social, economic, and environmental trade-offs and the synergies among different systems, and facilitate the studies on the interrelationship among different types of tele-coupling processes, and then help us develop more effective policies. Okay? But there are many barriers for this, because it's more complex and need more resources and need more coordinations. But there are also a lot of opportunities, and the interest in this kind of research is growing. For example, the Global Land Project has chosen tele-coupling as the main research priority for the next 5 to 10 years. And the Belmont Forum is an international organization funding kind of research. And the NASA MSU program has provided money to train the new generation of research on this area. So media coverage is also increasing, and Time magazine already reported at least twice about tele-coupling research. And I'm not going to quickly summarize. So place-based research is important, right? We still need more, but more attention is needed for addressing this tele-coupling process. And the framework can help us to understand different components and the interrelationship of tele-couplings among different distant places. And the quantification of the framework is challenging, but it can provide useful information for sustainability across local to global scales. So I'd like to thank the funding agencies, also Bill, Clark, and for kindly hosting me for my sabbatical a few years ago. That gave me time to think about those issues, and also numerous collaborators who helped me to develop the framework and also apply the framework to quantify the things, including Karen. And like Bill, also I put a list of references here if some people are interested in, that'd be good. And the first article actually is co-authored with the Karen. So this is a website, and you can go there if you are interested. Thank you so much.